Yo, 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 what's going on? How is everyone today? Just gonna wait a little bit, let some more people jump on before we get started. But man, it is Sunday. It has been a super, super long week. Excited that it's over. So today again, I decided I'm gonna be doing basically just a Q&A, a question and answer, somewhere around once a month. So I think this date around the 15th, this Sunday around the 15th is going to work perfectly for that. And hopefully, actually, I'm hoping it keeps lining up with my rest weeks because that actually gives me some good amount of time to jump on, answering any questions, things like that. But, so as always, if you guys have any just random questions about nutrition, about cycling in general, about training, about my training, about racing, anything, any of that kind of stuff, just go ahead and just start firing away in the chat, and then we can start answering some of those questions. But aside from that, if you're new to the channel, my name is Chaz, and what I do is I do a lot of just cycling stuff. So, anything from training and racing to nutrition and different things like that. Also, I am a cycling coach. I run my own coaching business known as Elevate Coaching, and it's going very well. We've got quite a few athletes on the programs, on their own specific programs, because everything is completely custom to the athlete and their needs and whatever. I usually try to sit down and set up Zoom calls with them, and I also try do phone calls and whatnot, and just make sure that we're both on the same page when it comes to actually doing their training and whatnot. So, super fun stuff. Anyways, when y'all already start asking questions, fire away, and then I will start answering them as always. But man, training wise, this week was insane. It was a super big week of training. We had, when I say we, me and my training partner, Nick, we train all the time together. And so this week, one of the big milestones that my coach wanted to do was just get in not only solid intensity, but also get in lots of volume. So this week, I ran about a 1200 TSS for the week, and I ran 23 hours. And we did VO2 work, we did threshold, we did more VO2 work, and we did more threshold. We did a massive group ride yesterday with Tyler, vegan cyclist, and Nick, and Jordan, Steve, and a couple other guys from our area. It was super fun. But yeah, it's been a super long week, and I'm tired today. I'm super glad it's over. Anyways, so let's start with our first question today. Is from Joel. He says, how far from your race period do you start base training? That's a super good question, Joel. So when it comes to base training, one thing I look at is, it depends what time of year you're in. Obviously, if you're in the off season, that is the perfect time to do base training, right? You got nothing else. You can do those long miles. You can build some fatigue on the body, and then you can offload it relatively quickly too with some rest weeks. You can kind of just push yourself. So we will do lots of base training during the winter months, during the off season. Right now, I'm still technically in base training, although I was looking over my annual plan with my coach, and I think we are now going to start the build period. So we're going to start building on top of what we have already, and going for kind of an early April peak. So we'll see what races come up around that time. Hopefully racing will start by then, because the vaccines are being rolled out and whatnot. But I think base period, there's a lot of people all over the U.S. right now too, and other parts of the world too. You're getting ready to go into your race season, and right now you could be doing lots of base training and getting that done, and then starting to build rather here pretty quickly, pretty soon, sooner than not, towards a lot of those goal races. The other thing is, when you have a mid-season lull, like when the racing kind of starts to go down a little bit during mid-season, that's actually a really good time to go back and hit, maybe one training block on the base stuff. So maybe you do, 4 weeks or a month of base training, and you go back to doing some sweet spot with tempo and different stuff like that, that would be good to touch up back in the middle of the season, because you get a break from anaerobic, you get a break from high intensity, a little bit of break on the threshold stuff, but then you're moving down to the lower stuff that doesn't carry as much fatigue down the road, but rather it actually helps you improve so you can build on top of it. So doing a mid-season kind of like 1 month base build is actually pretty good, because it's going to allow you to continue to do well and finish strong throughout the whole season. But that's kind of my take on the base thing. I think you hit it really hard in the off season, and then I think about halfway through your season, when you have kind of a lull in racing, you can hit it again, but just kind of on a lighter note, just to offload some of that race fatigue, and then start building towards the second half of your season and finish really strong. So technically you're going for like a 2-peak season where you got base building in the beginning and a little bit of base building in the middle. Hope that answers the question there. Mark, what to eat for high intensity cycling or racing for less than 2 hours? Great question, and I think it's a relatively like uncomplex question too to answer. I would honestly, if you're going for less than 2 hours, if you had a drink mix with some carbs in it, that would be good, because the liquid carbs are going to be the easiest to digest, obviously, plus the drink mix is going to have some electrolytes and whatnot in it. But I would definitely say gels. You could go with gels and you would be totally fine on gels. Now, if you're doing like a longer 4-hour road race, I think you'd want to do more on the solid type of foods in the beginning of that race, and then switch to gels in the later half. So an example would be, maybe you're doing, let's see here, I like the waffles. I like the Stroop waffles by Goo, or whatever they are. Yeah, the waffles are good. Chomps are just as good too. But then, the second half of the race, you want those really, really quick carbs, right? Those quick energy sources. So gels are good. Gels is one, and then drink mix is going to be the other. So usually for crits, I will do a gel before a crit, and sometimes I'll just do drink mix during a crit. Sometimes I'll just do water, because our crits are anywhere from an hour to 75 minutes, depending on, some of them are an hour and a half, but not many. But 75 minutes to an hour, in that range. So usually I would do a gel, and if it's going to be a little bit longer than an hour, then I'll take another gel about the 30-minute mark. That way it starts kicking in the last 15 minutes or whatever. That's what I would do, though, when it came to anything that was 2 hours or less. I would stick to gels. They're easy. Maybe do 2 to 3 an hour, and then drink mix works really well also. What up, Luke? How you doing, bud? Any tips to improve your average speed? Pick a flat road with a tailwind, and you will be flying. No, so honestly, in order to improve the average speed, so many things are going to go into that. Being aero is going to make a difference. The terrain that you're on. Like, say you got a loop that's got a decent amount of climbing that you do over and over and over. Obviously you can see how you improve on that over time. So one thing would be like, it's going to come down to power. The higher your threshold goes, the faster your average speed is going to increase theoretically. The wintertime, your average speeds are always going to be lower than, say, midsummer. It has to do with air density and different things. So it's kind of a hard one to really answer on how to improve it. But if you get good at doing tempo, and you get good at, and you build up your threshold, and you can do some like TT type stuff, and you have, that's one way to increase it. Other way would be find group rides. Group rides are super fast, right? And your average speeds are always pretty good in group rides. But overall, like, if you're just trying to aim for that metric, like, I want to do this loop with an average of 20 versus 19 and a half, you're just going to have to hammer more. Speed is speed, right? Same thing with power is power. No matter what power you put out, you're pretty much going to do almost the same time. Like, me and my buddy have routes that we do, and we know based off the power we do how long they take us. And it's crazy. There's loops that we used to do. It used to take us about 3 hours to do them. Now we do them in 2.5 hours. It's just we've gotten that much faster, right? And but we're doing them at the same intensity technically. Like, for us, it feels the same. Even though we're stronger, we're going faster. So we knocked off a half hour on a lot of these loops that we do. So overall average speed is just, it's just another metric that's there, and it's very dependent on wind, temperature, air density, different things. So it's kind of a hard one. That's why I like training the heart rate or power. You know, you either have it or you don't. But new fan, love that ministry. Seems a big part of your life. Thanks, dude. Yeah, dude. I had church all morning. I work on Sundays. I usually don't race on Sundays or ride on Sundays because I work all day. And yeah, we had that going on this morning. So I usually do these live streams in the evening, but I figured after church I'd be able to get on here and do one. And hopefully catch a little bit of a bigger audience. You know, who might not be heading off to bed yet. So, what do you think is the most effective VO2 workout for Mitchell? Dude, that's a really hard one to answer. I mean, it kind of depends, because you know what I've noticed is, and I used to think this until I really understood what VO2 meant. VO2 max is actually a makeup of your anaerobic. It's also a makeup of, the pure VO2, and it's also a makeup of your threshold. So it's like a VO2 workout, they can actually hit on different energy systems depending on what you're doing. So if you're doing 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off VO2, you know, that's going to hit more on the anaerobic side, because theoretically you should be able to push a little bit higher on the power for those. If you're doing 5 by 5 minutes, you're going to hit more on the lower side of the VO2 and the threshold type stuff. And because, you know, you can't do anaerobic for 5 minutes multiple times, right? So, gosh, man, that is such a hard one to answer. It's going to depend on what you're trying to hit on, right? If you're trying to improve that 30-second to 2 minute power, or if you're trying to improve that 5 to 6 minute power at VO2. So when it comes to that, I'm going to say just helping to improve the best VO2 workout. Gosh, okay, 6 by 3 minute efforts at 120% of your threshold with 4 minute rests. I think that's kind of a middle ground there. I think you're hitting some on the anaerobic side and some on the aerobic side in that VO2 range. As you get through those sets, you're going to be burning through some of the anaerobic ability, so you're going to be going more aerobic. And I think overall, just doing the 6 by 3 minutes with 4 minute rest, I think that's going to be a solid big for your buck. I used to do a lot of that, and it was, I mean, those are pretty intense. And I did see, like, within about 2 weeks, I definitely saw an improvement in power. That's a solid one to do. So again, that's going to be 6 by 3 minutes with a 4 minute rest. And you're going to want to do that around 120% of your threshold. So I think, I don't even know. So for me, technically, what I would be doing for that, if I was doing 360 times 1.20, so I'd be doing about 430 to 435 watts for 3 minutes, and you do 4 minute rest, and then you do that 6 times. That's going to give you, that's going to be some really solid power and some really sweet tough workout, but you're going to be hitting on, you know, like I said, the anaerobic side and the aerobic side of that VO2, and I think that's going to be your best bang for the buck. I mean, there's other options out there too, but that 3 minutes is kind of a good middle ground, you know, for the VO2 stuff. So try that out. Maybe that'll be a good workout. And if you do try it, let me know how it goes. Let's see here. So Matthew, what is the best kind of hill or grade to do hill repeats on? Love the videos. Dude, I'm glad you love the videos. Sometimes I don't know if people love the videos or not. But when it comes to a hill grade, I've been doing some of my hill repeats on like a 5 to 6% grade. You just stay away from like 9% or higher. It can be pretty tough. Although I've done some of my threshold work on some that has like some steep pitches in it around 9-10%, but it's very brief. So I'd say if you do anything from even just 4 to 7%, I think is perfect for doing any type of hill repeat work. So when it comes to intervals too, I do tell my athletes, hey, if you can do them on a hill, I would go do them on a hill. It's a little bit easier to keep the power going. You can engage the glutes better when you're going uphill and whatnot. You can do them on the flats. It's not impossible. gosh, I'm yawning nonstop. It's not impossible, but it is definitely a little bit harder. So try what I say, 4 to 7% for an incline. I think that's pretty solid. And the steadier, the better. I mean, if you got one that kind of goes up and then kind of goes down, then goes up, dude, rollers are watt killers. Anytime you get a little bit of a downhill. So I did a 20-minute power test the other day, new PR. I was so close to holding 380 watts. Like, I was right there with like a minute and a half to go. I was at like 379. I was like, okay, I can dig for another minute and a half and maybe get it back up. But then I hit the flatter section of the climb where it does have some downhill. And as soon as I hit that, I went from 379 to 377. And next thing you know, I got 30 seconds left. I'm sitting at 377. And I'm like, gosh dang it, I was this close to hitting 380. So then it started to finally gradually go back up, and I was able to kind of sprint that last 30 seconds. I totally almost just fell over and passed out, and I brought it up to 378. So had I not had that little lull though, and it was more gradual uphill, I probably could have hung on to 379. Doing 380 would, I was right there. But I did it on a hill too, so that helps. But again, like I said, at the end of that hill, I had kind of a gradual downhill and I killed it. So if you do 4 to 7% for your actual, intervals, I think that's a solid place to start. Is Chaz short for anything like Chazwick? No, it's actually not. So technically, if you name your kid Charles, Chaz would be the nickname. But my birth certificate says Chaz, so my parents were cool enough to give me an actual full name of Chaz. So it's not short for anything, but good question. How can I work on decreasing my fatigue in the end of races? That's a good question. What I am currently doing, and I dropped this recently in my threshold workout breakdown video. I talked on it at the back end of that video. I talked about doing fatigue resistant threshold work, and yesterday was like the first real test of where I got to see how well that's been working. So for example, yesterday we did a 6-hour ride, and mostly it was like zone 1, zone 2 for like the first 3 hours. We did a couple efforts, got a little frisky on some climbs in there. But then when we hit the 4.5 hour mark, something just kind of like clicked. And then I started just kind of doing tempo, doing a little bit of sweet spot tempo, long pulls on the front. And then when we got to the final climb of the day, my buddy Nick was like, hey, if you want to win nationals, you got to rail this climb. So the final climb of the day, we railed it, and he kind of led me out a little bit on it. And then I took off on the second half of it. And so my threshold's 360. Well, here I am at 5.5 hours into the ride, and then I threw down 367 for 7.5 minutes up this climb, and then I felt amazing afterwards, right? So saying all that because I've been doing fatigue resisting threshold work, meaning you'd have to do it on a longer ride. This is going to help you for the end of road races. Basically, you're going to ride zone 2 for the entire ride. And say you take let's do a 3-hour ride. This one works best. So you do a 3-hour ride. You're going to ride zone 2 for the first hour and a half. And then after that hour and a half, you're then going to start your threshold work. Because technically the threshold workouts should be anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half long. So basically you want to do, so say your threshold workout is going to be 3x15s, right, with 10-minute rest. Well, if you look at that, that's going to be 15, 30, 45 minutes plus that 30 minutes worth of rest, right? 10 in between each. So that's going to be 45. That's going to bring you to an hour and 10 minutes. So you'd want to actually start around an hour 40 into your ride. You would start the threshold work. And then you would do that, and by the time you finish the threshold work, you should be around 3 hours. And then you just cool down and your ride's done. So if you think about it, if your races are that long, if your races are 3 hours, now what you're doing is you're getting to that 2-hour mark, and if you've been very conservative during the first half of the race and you've sat in, you got some major watts to drop in that second half of that race. Even if you had to put in a few digs here and there in the first half, still you will have built up fatigue resistance. So what you have to do is you have to, being able to do intervals fresh is one thing. Being able to do intervals after you burn, 1,500 kilojoules or 2,000 kilojoules, that's another thing. So like yesterday when we were doing that and I went full send on that climb, I knew and I had the confidence that I could put those numbers out because I had been finishing, 20-minute threshold efforts 4 hours into a ride at like 3,600 kilojoules burned for the day. So when we started that climb at that 5.5 hour mark, I'd only burned, I think, about 3,000 kJs up to that point, and I knew that I had been able to do a 20-minute effort before at threshold, going up to 3,600 kJs. So I knew I had that much room to play with, that I still had that in my body. My body would work and it would put out the power, and it did. And actually, for some reason, it did something weird where it was like it opened up my legs and I felt way better. And then after that, once we all regrouped, I just kept doing sweet spot, and I did another. So I did 367 with that climb. We descended, regrouped, and then I did another, 320 watts for about 15 minutes on the way home at sweet spot, and then led Nick out for a sprint. And the Joker hit like 40 or something like that with a slight headwind. Ridiculous. Anyways, that is one way to help reduce fatigue at the end of the race. So sitting in, being smart, and two, doing some of your intervals later in the ride will help build fatigue resistance. So I know it's kind of long-winded, but I hope that answers that question. Okay, do I need to get Cat 2 or Cat 3 to become a coach or go to school, exercise science? Okay, no, so coaching, the way coaching works is, honestly, you have to, one, you have to know what you're doing, right? But two, you just have to be a student of it, right? I didn't go to school for coaching, but I read a lot of information. I watch lots of different webinars. I listen to podcasts. I've gotten to talk to some really good coaches over the last few years and just pick their brain and take notes on it. Like I got to sit down with Tim Cusick, head of the Training Peaks stuff in WKO, and I got to sit down with him over a Zoom call for an hour, and I told him my story and what my fitness was, and he gave me all kinds of cool insight, and he walked through WKO with me, and we talked about different metrics and whatnot. And because I'm using myself as an example, I learned so much about what needs to be done to make me move forward. So then when I'm looking through WKO, which is one thing you need to do, I think you need to learn I think WKO is perfect for coaching. If you can learn that software, it will help you coach people adequately. So when I learned all that stuff, I was able to now use those same tips he gave me and look through the data in WKO for different athletes that I have and figure out what we need to do in order to make things work or make them get stronger, or take their weakness and now turn it into a strength, and have their strength and keep it as a strength. School does get you, school is really cool, and there's a lot of people, coaches out there that do have like PhDs or masters in exercise physiology and whatnot. But again, me personally, I didn't go to school, but I did go and just, I asked people. I got mentored by some coaches, listened to podcasts, different things. And then what I do, I find this is the best thing. In order to learn at your best, you should take whatever you learn, turn around and start teaching it as well. So that's one reason why I do a lot of the YouTube videos that I do, is because I want to educate other people. When I was starting in racing before I had a coach, I didn't understand what threshold intervals were. I didn't even understand what structured training was. But now, because I have that understanding, and yeah, there's a lot of people out there who might like to do it themselves, maybe don't have the money to pay for a coach, different things. So I want to try to give back to the way that other people have given to me, and I share the tips. So I would find people that you really like and you really trust and you really value their opinion, and just learn from them. Just ask questions. And I have people all the time hit me up on Instagram and they'll ask me random stuff about cycling or nutrition or training, and I'll share what I know, what my knowledge is. And the other thing is, to be a good coach, never stop learning. Do not get stuck in your ways and just do this this is the way I do things. Why do you do it that way? Because I've always done it that way. Like, I think that's not a good philosophy. So my philosophy is always, not always changing. Like, I have a very set, foundation of how to approach everyone and how to do things. But then when it gets to like the specific building or whatnot, I mean, like, everything is completely tailored, right? Every athlete's going to be completely different. Some athletes have heart rate issues where they can't go above a certain ceiling, so we got to play with that and figure out how to do the proper type of intervals in order to achieve the adaptations. Some athletes, have been coached before and have this really good strength over here, but they just didn't touch on these things over here, so it's just some low-hanging fruit, and it's like, it's my job to try to find that. And I mean, like I said, when it comes to coaching, just find what works for you, continue to learn, always study, always be open-minded to new things that are coming out. What I've found by listening from podcasts is a lot of the established science that's out there that you would learn in school and whatnot is almost outdated, because a lot of it's done with people who aren't like highly trained. They call them elite athletes, but they're not world tour athletes. They're not continental athletes. And a lot of the studies are based off of like 30 minutes to an hour, right? None of the studies are really based off of a 3 to 6 hour ride. But that is one thing that they're actually getting super close to doing. Like, they're able, with the building of smart trainers and whatnot, they can actually build rooms now that will be, or labs that will be very, it's almost the same as outdoors. They can create the same environment, and then now you can take a world tour rider, you can stick them on that trainer for 4, 5, 6 hours, and now you can get some really cool data from them and start to just really blow the roof off on scientific finds and whatnot. So never be closed-minded. Always keep learning. Always keep moving forward. Even if you don't agree with something, don't just kick it off right away. Look into it, learn about it, and then make your decision on if you want to use it or not in your coaching. The other thing is, I never give anything to my athletes that I personally have never done. I mean, if you're giving workouts and stuff to athletes that you yourself have never done, that's already going to show me that you don't understand what you're actually trying to accomplish with that workout. So everything I give, I have done before, and it's not just, I'm not using people as guinea pigs. I use myself as a guinea pig. I use Nick. I'll use Nick as a guinea pig. I'll give him some stuff too, and we'll compare notes and, see how those games go. And then see, which athletes actually respond really well to that and which ones don't. And then, okay, well, they don't respond well to that, so I'm not going to use it. And there's other things too. You can do USA Cycling licenses. They got all kinds of classes out there and seminars and things. And again, I mean, that's something I've been looking into and doing as well. So you just always keep learning, always keep moving forward, pick people's brains when you get the chance. Always find someone who's been in coaching, for a long time, who's smarter than you, and learn from them. Try to find someone to mentor you, something like that. And then, make use of all the coaching tools that are out there and find the ones that work for you, and then learn them well and then use them. That's what you have to do. But it takes time. It really takes time. And if you don't understand your own program, if you're getting coached and you don't understand your own program, then you're not going to understand how to coach other people. So you need to start there. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that was a lot. Anyways, tell me about your bike setup. My bike isn't in here. It's not in here. I ride a Specialized SL6 Tarmac S-Works, the camo version, whatever it is. I don't know. I guess it's camo. I'm not really sure. Love that bike. Love that bike. I have 2 different wheel setups. I have the CLX 32s and I have the CLX 50s. And I had been running them tubeless. Recently I switched to latex tubes and went back to like straight clincher tires now. So I find it a little bit, I don't know, it's just as comfortable and it's a little bit lighter because I don't have all the sealant in them. I run SRAM ETAP 11 speed. I use a Cork Dub Zero power meter with the Cork crank arms, carbon crank arms. What else is on my bike? I got a Roman's S-Works saddle. I run, what are my bars? I have a Zip stem, not the Sprint, but the SL. It's super fat too, but it's not the Sprint stem, it's the SL one. And then I run the Shimano, Pro Vibe super light aero bars. So they're the Pro Vibe Aero bars, but they're the super light version because I'm not a sprinter and I'm not like fully that strong enough. I mean, like there's nothing there, so I'm not that strong enough to like really torque the bars. So I got the super light version. They're about, I don't know, 50 to 100 grams lighter, and I'm a climber, and it's kind of a climbing bike too. So that's what I run. That's what I work with. That is my bike setup. Absolutely love it. I have something else coming down the road bike wise, so you're gonna have to wait on that, and I will show you down the road when that's gonna show up and when it's gonna happen. It might be a month, might be a week, might be a couple months. Anyways, I got something coming down the road. I'm super excited to share that with you. I'm gonna do a full review on it, but that is my current bike setup. Anyways, Masters Crit Racer. All right, here we go. Off season, I ride 3 days, 5 to 6 hours a week, and 3 days of weight training. I think that's good. And if you're over 35, or you're like 40 or more, I think weight training is super important. If you're under 40, you can kind of get away with not doing it. Not saying you shouldn't, but you can get away with not doing it. But over 40, definitely do that. I slowly ramp up hours on the bike to 12 to 15 and cut back on weights. 5 to 6 hours in early base, cutting too much. Yeah, so I would. It depends, dude. I train 3 weeks on, 1 week off. I used to go like just the same volume every week, and I saw it. It worked, and for time crunch athletes, it works pretty good. But for people who aren't time crunched, you can do a 3-week build and then do a massive recovery week, right? So that's what I did. So example, I did 18, 20, 23. Now I'm going into an 11-hour rest week. Okay, it's half of whatever you did. So going into a rest week, but I super overreached this last week. And now I'm going to rest all week long and take it chill and enjoy it. I would say doing 5 to 6 hours of base work is pretty low. Now I would be okay with doing a 2-week, like 5 to 6 hours for 2 weeks instead of taking complete rest off the bike, just to really offload stress and just go easy. That would be good. But then when you start back in, I think you need to start. I mean, if you're doing 12, 15 hours a week, you probably need to be doing, you need to go like 12, 14, 16, and then do a rest week at like 5 to 6 hours. Then you need to go maybe 14, 16. If you can't do more than 16, maybe do another 16, and then you go a rest week of 5 to 6. And then you get into the build phase, you would bring that volume down just slightly. So then maybe you are doing 12 to 13 hours every week, and then you're doing a rest period of 5 to 6 hours. That's how I would build it. I wouldn't do just 5 to 6 hours of base. I don't think that's enough to stress the system at all or make adaptations and get stronger. Now, I do know that you're doing 3 days a week of weightlifting, which I think is awesome. I'd maybe cut that back to 2 days a week instead of 3. Try that and see how that would be going. And then when you do jump into season, instead of cutting them out all together, you could just cut it down to 1 week. And then as you get closer to your target A race or your target chunk of races you want to do, then you could actually cut it out altogether, because you wouldn't want that start sacrificing your recovery and don't want to show up to a race with sore legs and whatnot. So that's that. Who just texted me? Oh my gosh, someone was like, what SL7 you getting? Because they heard me talking about bikes. I was relaxed. I can't tell you what I'm getting, and it might not even be a Specialized. So, that's what I would do for that, though. Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, tell me in the comments, and we can come back and I'll hit more on that. Fitness ramp rate. Looking to boost my fitness through an increase in volume. How fast do you generally add training stress? Okay. Here I will pull up let me pull up my training peaks, and I'll kind of give you an idea of what I've been doing recently. I mean, we've been building pretty steady. Again, I'm doing more of it, and I do this with my athletes too, more of a 3-week build, start to overreach, and then you do a 1 week off. So here we go. Over the last 7 days, I did a ramp rate of 8. So I increased my fitness 8 points in the last 7 days. In the last 22 days, which is pretty much 23 weeks. No. In the last 28 days, which is just over 3 weeks, we had a ramp rate of 6. Now that's including, there's a rest week in there, obviously, along with those 3 weeks of building. So basically at the bottom, when I came off that rest week, I want to say I was around maybe, that's not right, is it right? Yeah, maybe I was around 106, and then we built up to 126, and now we're going to offload some of that and probably drop to like 115, 120 in that range this week. But in the last 7 days, we had a ramp rate of 8. It's pretty aggressive, but I'm also going into a rest week. So that's something to think about for sure. If I look at my overall dashboard of building, let's do a custom. Here we go. Custom dates through last 14 days. Apply. Okay, so last 14 days, I was at, as of 2 weeks ago, I was at 112, and now I am at 126. So again, I mean, we got up to 118, took a rest day, and then we built up this week. So we went from 112 to 118, that's like what, 6 points. And then this week we went from 115 to 126 or whatever, so that's another like 10 points almost. Anyways, that's kind of the ramp rate I'm doing. You really don't want to go above 7. 7 is pretty extreme, but that's one thing that you can do. You can ramp rate, 5 to 7 points a week is solid. But remember, if you do 3 weeks of that, you should be pretty fatigued, and you're gonna have to take a rest week. And that rest week, you have to. And I can't stress this enough. I have some athletes I have to yell at because they don't understand how to do this. But you have to take that rest week easy. It's gonna take you 2 to 3 days. You're gonna recover. You're gonna feel amazing. You want to start smashing again. Don't, because even though your legs feel good and your heart rate looks good and everything looks good and you feel good physically, you're not tired anymore, don't start smashing, because those energy systems still have fatigue on them, so you got to keep taking it chill through that week and just take it chill. Like I said, I did 23 hours this week. That was my highest volume week, so now the rest week is going to be half of that. So I think we have planned 11 and a half hours for this week. And literally tomorrow I'm doing an hour and a half of just zone 1 recovery. The next day I think I'm doing 2 hours of zone 1, zone 2 recovery. Wednesday I'm going to do a 3-hour ride, all zone 2. And then I'm actually going to take Thursday completely off. And then on top of that, Friday I think I'm doing another hour and a half to 2 hours of zone 1, zone 2. Or actually it might be just zone 1. Saturday, then will be a 3.5 hour ride, and I'm going to take another day off on Sunday. So I'm taking 2 days off completely this week, but I'm still getting in 11 and a half hours. Anyways, that's what I would do. But ramp rate wise, don't go more than 5 to 7 points. 8 was pretty extreme. I don't know if I've ever done 8 before. But anyways, that's what I would. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. That's what I would look at. 5 is solid. 5 is a good way to do it. And then what you want to do on the rest week is you want to take enough rest not to let that drop too drastically. But you do want it to drop just a little bit, or just kind of hold it and maintain it. So your chart should go. So as you build, I don't know which way I want to go. As you build, your chart should go up. Up 3 weeks, and then you have that rest week, and then the next 3 weeks it should go up, and then you have that rest week. That's how it should look. And then eventually you're gonna peak, you're gonna pull back on volume, then increase intensity, you're gonna peak, and then you want to taper, and then you want it to come down just a little bit, and then boom, you're flying. So that is kind of the overall gist of the build there. Manual. Hey Chaz, any recommendations for breathing during hard efforts for a 20-minute test? You just gotta find a rhythm. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how to explain it. You get in a rhythm, and when you inhale, I inhale through my mouth and nose, and I exhale through my mouth. That's how I do it. I do both of them. Yeah, so I'm trying it right now, seeing how I do it. Getting a rhythm. The other thing is if you're doing it on a climb, stay wide on the handlebars, because the wider you can get, you can open up your lungs more and get more air. Whereas when you got them too close together and you're trying to stay aero on the climb, like you're doing a test, who cares if you're aero or not? You're going uphill, you're doing a test, you want the best numbers possible. Get wide like a house, get wide, open up that chest so you can get more air in. Breathe in through the mouth and nose, and then release it. I listen to music, and I try to pick music that gets me in a zone. Like, get in a rhythm with your pedals too. Like, get in a rhythm. Like, you just gotta find the rhythm. Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Someone finish that quote because it's bobsled time. Anyways, that's. Just feel the rhythm, man. And if you're suffering, you gotta fight through it and try to find that rhythm. You gotta find it. That's really the only advice I can give to you. And as you do it too, you'll see once you get control of that, you'll notice your heart rate might even come down a few beats and then sit better rather than spiking. So something you gotta do, especially when I attack on climbs, I try to get in a rhythm immediately when I attack, and then when I sit down and I'm done attacking, boom, I'm switching and I'm getting into a different rhythm, almost like the beat just kind of changed in a song. Like you gotta adjust your breathing to the changes of the rhythm. Thanks on the average speed tips. I'm a climber and I'm not super fast on the flats. Dude, it'll come. Just get aero as you can and you'll be faster. Gavin's got one more question. Is there a percentage of FTP you generally stick to for long rides? No intervals, just building volume type rides. Just zone 2. I mean, if you think about it, zone 2 is 55 to 75% of your threshold. I mean, that's a decent range. That 75 is just below tempo and 55 is just above zone 1. So you just get in that zone. And some people, like for me, it's a really big zone for me. For me, that's like 200 watts to 270 watts. That's kind of my zone. I mean, that's a lot of watts. Some people it's smaller. Some people who have maybe a threshold of like 160 or something, their zone 2 is only like 80 to 110. Like it's super small, right? You got to find what works for you. And I think zone 2 is perfect. If you want to push tempo on the climbs, push the tempo zone on the climbs. Because again, that zone is going to go up to about, I can't remember what that zone goes up to. Maybe it's 92%. I can't remember. But for me, tempo is like 270 to 315. That's the tempo range. So when I go out for those endurance rides or have fun days or the kitchen sink ride, the kitchen sink, that's what he calls my rides. I'll ride wherever I want to ride, but most of the time I'm hoofing it in the zone 2 and doing zone 3 on some climbs, and sometimes I'm doing zone 3 on the flats. But I would say just do that. If you don't have intervals, zone 2 is good. I do recovery days, and my athletes, I have them do recovery days too, like this, where they'll do the first half zone 1 and they'll do the second half zone 2, and then they'll cool down. That's a good way to break it up, because you're getting true recovery at zone 1, spinning the legs, getting the blood moving, and then when you go into zone 2, you just increase the intensity just a little bit, and you're kind of blowing the legs out a little bit more. And I just find overall that really does help for recovery. So that's kind of my take for that, Gavin and Scott. So hope that answers your question. Let me know if you have any more questions about that. Joel, I'm from a hilly area like yours. Sick. I love the mountains. I haven't seen you run aero wheels much, but how deep would you go on wheels before prioritizing weights? So recently I've actually been running the CLX 50s for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I got my CLX 32s warranted. I had some rim track issues on them. I know, rim brakes. But they totally warranted them because it's lifetime warranty from Robal. But I do run the 50s. The 50s are a great all-around wheel. I mean, I think they're 1,350 grams or something like that. So they're still crazy light. I mean, my CLX 32s are the 32 millimeters deep. The 50s are obviously 50 millimeters deep, but the 32s are just over 1,200 grams. Like they're less than 1,250. So they're crazy light too. And they're relatively aero. They're not bad, but the 50s are definitely aero, and they're like 100 grams more. So at that point, I mean, the 50 is a great all-rounder. If I'm doing massive climbs that are longer, say we're doing long climbs that are 15 plus minutes, I'm going to run the 32s. Or if it's going to come down to a race where it's on the finishing climb and it's a pretty long climb, like 10 plus minutes, I'm probably going to run the 32s. But everything else, if it's a 5-minute finish climb or something like that, I'm running the 50s. It's just, I mean, aero does beat light almost all the time, and a lot of the races we do are mostly kind of flat on the flatter side, or even if we do have climbing races, I mean, like I said, they're only like 5 to 8 minute climbs. Some of them, though, I will run the 32s because, just to be honest, they accelerate really well and they're fast uphill and whatnot. But overall, I mean, it's up to you. It really is up to you. 50s, any 50 millimeter wheel is going to be a great wheel as long as you can find one that's light. I think Envy does relatively light 50 millimeter wheel. Cadex actually has a really lightweight 64, I think is what it is. They run a lightweight wheel. Windspace is a new one. Windspace, they're actually relatively cheap wheels. They're not cheap as in they're going to break, but I've heard good things about them. I'm looking to hopefully test those out and really see what those are like. But I hear that they're super solid, they're stiff, carbon spokes, different things, and they're light. And money-wise, they're only like $1,400 or something for a set. So you're looking at a super nice high-grade wheels or whatever. Anyways, that's kind of my take on it. I think 50s are good all-rounder as long as you can find them relatively light. And if you're running disc wheels, I think anything in the 13 or just barely 1,400 range, 1,400 grams for a 50 is super light, and you could totally run that on a hilly course. I think you'd be fine with that. Anyways, I hope that answers your question. Fraser, hi Chaz. Is starting at 18 too late to become a high-level rider? I've been riding for about 6 months now. I'm training around 15 hours a week and have seen a lot of progress. Honestly, age is just a number. If you're looking to go like world tour or something like that, I'm gonna be honest, it's hard. It's very hard. If you're looking at going continental or something like that, I mean, yeah, you got plenty of time to do that too. Again, it depends. The biggest thing too is race results. So at the age of 18, if you want to try to make it big, you got to get to Cat 1 within a year. I mean, honestly, if you want, this is the way racing goes, and this sucks, but this is the way it goes. If you want to be World Tour, or have a shot at getting to World Tour, you need to be Cat 1 by the time you're 18. And then from there, you need to continue to not only be Cat 1, you need to start winning races. And by the time you're 23, you should have dominated in some U23 races, get on the national team, and now you're fast tracking it on to Axon or something like that, and then the next step from Axon is to World Tour. Like, that's just how it works. But age is just a number. Okay, age is a number. Like for me personally, I'm 30 and I'm putting out some of the best numbers in my life, and if racing was to start and I had some really good results this year, yeah, I could get probably picked up by a team. But again, it all depends on race results too. You could have amazing numbers, but if you can't race, you can't race. So that's what I would do with that. It's not too late. You can still get you're going to see a lot of gains in your first year anyways, but overall, I think, yeah, keep at it. If you don't have a coach, I would get a coach. I'm just going to be honest. I would get a coach. If you're looking to go and try to make a career out of it or something, or try to even have a shot at going continental and starting there and maybe seeing where you can go from there, get a coach. Get someone who knows how to operate at that level. I got a coach this year that I really want to win nationals, and we are full gas going towards it, and we were working towards it. And he's coached people at the World Tour level. He's coached people at the Continental. He's coached some guys who's won Masters, Nationals, and whatnot, and World Championships. So knows what it takes. And the plus side of that is I am a coach, or me as a coach, I am learning a ton of information from him. So much information. Like, I now know what it's like. I knew what it took to operate at that level, but because of it, I now know what kind of work it takes to operate at that level, because I'm doing it myself. So I would say get a coach. There's lots of great coaches out there. If you're interested, I can talk to you. Also, if you want even just me to give you some other names of other good coaches you can look at, I can give you some really good recommendations as well. Don't go on Training Peaks and just shop for a coach and find one. There's a billion options on there. You want to try to find a good coach that not only is going to put you where you want to be, but you want to find a coach that also you gel with and you get along with, and you kind of can see them as a friend, right? So that's super important. Again, if you're looking at something like that, hit me up and I can either help you out or I can point you in the right direction of some other guys that are super solid. But getting coach is good. Is it too late at 18? I don't think it's too late, but you need to start getting super serious. Rest days. I never rest 60 plus miles a day. Oh, you do 60 plus miles a day and you never do rest days? How much improvement do you see? Do you see constant improvement, or do you just kind of like peter out? Let me know about that one. I'm interested. Aaron J, do you think Cat 4-5 should travel to different races to get their upgrade points? Yeah, why not? I mean, you got to get them somewhere, right? If you can't get them, if you don't have enough races in your area to get upgrade points, yeah, travel around. Especially right now at COVID, it sucks. Here in California, there's no racing, so it's like we're kind of talking about maybe looking at other states to go race in. Do I want to do that? No. Do I have time for that? Not really. But will I? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts in that. There's money obviously involved. But I mean, for us in California, our races are always like 2 to 3.5 hours from us, so we're always traveling, car-wise to go to all these races. That's just how it is where we live. Some people have races nonstop, like an hour from the front door. Super lucky. But if you want to travel to other states and try out different things, like tour of American Dairyland or something like that, go for it. Check it out. Try it. Yeah, there's no shame in going out and learning how to race against other people, because you learn the people in your group too, and then traveling somewhere else and racing against new people. That's fun. That's super fun. Yeah. So I would definitely do it. Yeah, Jamel, I got your text message. Really? Trying to give away what bike I'm getting. Not gonna happen right now. Luke, looks like you have experience with Tubeless. Do you think it's worth it? Oh, yes and no. So, I like Tubeless, but I don't know. I end up kind of going back to tubes right now just to try it out, have some fun with it. I mean, Tubeless is fun, but I also like changing my tires regularly, like having different tire options. So with tubes, you can have different tire options. With Tubeless, I mean, it's a mess to change tires all the time, right? I don't know, it's preference. So I don't know. Well, here's an option. The new Revolve wheels are not Tubeless ready. You can't run Tubeless on them. That sucks, right? So you're running into some of that stuff too, but it's up to you. If your rims are set up to where you can actually run Tubeless, try it out sometime and see what you think about it. Keeping the SL6 regardless? Yes. I'm the new bike I'll be getting, I'm getting it, and I'm not selling the bike I currently have. So, yeah. Anyways. Gavin Scott, super informative. Sweet dude. I'm glad all of that made sense and answered your question. That's awesome. Jeff, thanks for all you do to educate ex-Fresno boy on the East Coast now. Hey, okay, where do you live on the East Coast? Tell me, because I used to live on the East Coast. Yeah, let me know. Learning how to ride and keeping fit to keep my 11-year-old from beating me up. Get it. Fun seeing the old hood in your videos. Cheers. Oh, dude, that's sick. Yeah, so I live out here in Sanger, just outside of Fresno. But my wife is from Pennsylvania, and my mom currently lives in Maryland. So, and Tony Wolf, Tyler's coach, used to coach me at one point. He's from Fresno, and he now lives Penn State, PA. So, kind of interesting to hear where you live. Anyways, thanks, Jeff. That's super cool. All right, next question. Is there a rule of thumb for mileage/time increases per week? For example, running, it's 10% increase per week, trying to get these running legs to put out some cycling gains. Thanks. Yeah, there is kind of a rule. I can't remember off the top of my head what the rule is. Dang it, I can't remember what the rule is. It's there. I've heard it and I've read it and I've seen it before. What I do is I usually do like 2-hour increments or something like that. That's just what I do. And if you have like the Cyclist Training Bible, it says in that. I know it does say that. That's a good book to read if you're trying to get into coaching and understand, or just understanding structure training in general. awesome book to read. It will help you with some stuff. But it does say in there, and I can't remember what it said. But for example, yeah, when we started, so I did a 23-hour week this week. This is the first time I've done that. Now, we didn't just jump straight into that. What we did was we did a block of, we did 16, 18, 20, 10-hour rest week. Then we did 18. So instead of going 16, we went to 18. We went 18, 20, 22, but I got 23 in this week. And now we're doing an 11-hour rest week. Now, next week, the following week, we're going to start, I think we're going to start the build process. And we're probably going to stay around 18 to 20. I don't think we're going to progress. Like, I don't think he's going to go 20, 22, 24. That would be the natural progression, but I don't think he's going to do that because I think we are going to start going into more intense intervals, and volume-wise, we're not going to be able to build that much volume. So we're probably going to go maybe 18 to 20. But I would say 2-hour increments. Again, I can't, if someone knows what the percentage is of what you can increase, it's there. I know it's like on the tip of my tongue, but I can't. It's in the training Bible. I know that. Gosh dang it. I'm sorry, dude. I should have that off the top of my head. That's like the first question I can never answer. Anyways, there is a limit. Next one. How do you choose between a recovery ride and a complete day off? Thanks for the great content. Well, I'm glad you think it's great. Sometimes I watch it and I'm like, what am I doing here? Anyways, how do I choose? Well, this is how it works out. Every Sunday, I take Sunday off. No matter what, that's just boom. Sunday is complete day off. I like to do 1 day a week completely off. I think it's good for you mentally, just to put the thing to the side, put the bike to the side, forget about it, relax. Focus on whatever else you have to focus on that day and not worry about throwing your leg over that bike and just riding. So that's why I pick Sundays completely off. On rest weeks, I think doing 2 days during the week is good because, see, here's the other thing. You don't want to have like burnout, right? You don't want to have mental fatigue where you burn out. At the end of a 3-week block, I'm pretty tired. Like, I'm super motivated, but if we had to go do another full week right now, oh my gosh, I would not be motivated at all. So what's happening is, during the rest of the week, we're going to do 2 days off this week, which is actually nice. Mentally, I get to refresh and catch up on anything that I might have slacked off on around the house or with school or something like that. Hang out with my wife more too. Although she's working during the day while I'm riding, so it's really not too much of a conflict. But then when it comes to rest days, typically you most people do 2 hard workouts a week. If you're a highly trained athlete, like 100 CTL, 100 fitness or higher, you can bump into 3 to 4, hard workouts a week. And then you're going to want to do easier days in between those. So that's just how it works. That's just kind of how we structure it with my athletes too. You also got to think about the training stress. If I'm giving you VO2 intervals, they're very hard and they're very intense. So you're going to have to take some time. If they're a newer athlete and they're doing, not a lot of hours that week, I'm probably going to give them 2 VO2 workouts a week, and the rest are going to be zone 1, zone 2, recovery, endurance reps. Like, that's what we're going to do. And that's kind of how I go about it. So I hope that kind of answered your question. I ask all my athletes to give me 1 day a week they would be comfortable taking fully off. They usually go, if we had to, I would do this day. I'm like, cool, you're taking that day off. So they really don't get a choice on that. What up, London? Dude, it's super late in London, is it not? Or is it morning? I'm confused. I think it's super late. Anyways, I have some 60 mils and agree slightly too deep for normal use. Yeah, 60 mils are slightly too deep. 50s are really good all around, and then anything less than that is going to be really good for climbing. 60s are amazing though for the flats and things like that. But yeah, using them on climbs, it's a little too much. Just a little bit too much. But a 50 is a good all-around wheel for flats and climbing, especially, like I said, if you find a lightweight one, the 1400 gram range, 50 millimeter, it's going to be a great wheel. Luke, I run a slam stem and I'm getting new wheels with a wider rim and it is deeper rim, so I think I'll improve the speeds a bit, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Again, it's all going to be aero and stuff. I pretty much run a slam stem too, but I don't do it just because the pros do it. I do it because it's actually comfortable for me. It's like, don't do it because the pros do it. Do it because it's comfortable and it's a good fit for you. That's what I always try to tell people. So, and someone gave us a bunch of hearts and okays. Awesome. Logan, how do you figure out your nutrition and how many calories you need? I do MyFitnessPal. So, for the day, and I'm going into a rest week, so I'm gonna have to cut back this week and not overeat. But basically, I'm gonna be logging it. You can't even see that screen. Anyways, I'm gonna be logging that junk. That's what I'm doing. So I watch it every day. You know, I know about how many calories I can take in. I know about 3,000 calories a day is pretty solid. If I do more than that, I'd have to make sure I ride a decent amount that day. You know, I take basically I need 1,500 calories a day plus whatever I burn on the bike. So today is an off day and I need 1,500 calories for the day. I'll probably get in closer to 2,000 calories for the day. I will overeat just a little bit, but then tomorrow I'm gonna ride the bike and I'll probably be able to get in 2,500 to 3,000 calories tomorrow. You know, the next day I'm gonna ride the bike. I mean, so I'm pretty much locked in doing the same calories every day. I just need to make sure that I eat that. The biggest struggle I have is the stinking evenings when it's past 8 o'clock, when I know I shouldn't be eating anymore. Like if I've had all my calories for the day at 8, I shouldn't be eating more after that. But sometimes, man, the wife brings snacks into the house and I'm like, we gotta get the snacks out of the house. So then I go and I eat them. And I'm like, well, I ate them all, so now they're not in the house. And I feel much better about that. And then I get on the scale the next day and I'm like, yeah, that was a terrible idea. But that's kind of how I figure it out. I know you can go to like websites and figure out what your metabolic rate is, and then you take that and you add on whatever you burn from doing exercise, and then you want to do like a 500 calorie deficit in order to lose weight. And that's what I do, is I do a 500 deficit, and you know, that's what works for me. And I've been floating around 144 to 146 for the last 2 months, so it's super sustained. I was up here at 158, then we dropped it down over 3 or 4 months to 145 and just stayed there. So that's one way to do it. You're also a collegiate racer with a 315 FTP. You weigh 145. Nice. I'm 6'2" and want to be closer to 160. How could I gain weight and power? Dude, you're 6'2" and you weigh 145 pounds? Jeez. That's super skinny. Like that's almost unhealthy skinny. Yeah, you're gonna have to just eat more. You know, it's hard to say. I don't know what you're eating right now, so I'm not gonna be like, hey, eat more of this, eat more of that. But you're gonna have to increase your caloric intake. You know, I think the caloric intake is probably a little bit low, and if you're starting to lose more weight too, that definitely shows your caloric intake is lower. I wonder too, if you bump up your caloric intake and you take in more, if your power would actually come up, because maybe you might even be under fueling some stuff. You never know. So I would just try that. You know, if you've been in the weight gym, if you haven't been in the gym, you could always hit the weights a little bit, put on some more muscle, and that would also translate into maybe some more power to you down the road. That's one way to do it. But yeah, I would work on just gotta eat more, but eat healthy. Don't just be like, oh, I'm gonna eat Pop-Tarts and Ben and Jerry's because Chaz said I could eat more because I'm too skinny. Like, no, eat healthy food and then see what happens. You know, sometimes I'm not hungry anymore, and I look and I realize I still have like 1,000 calories to get in for the day, and I'm like, I don't want to, and you just kind of force yourself to eat. Otherwise, I'm gonna feel like crap the next day. So, don't ever undereat, especially when you're putting on a heavy training load. You know, it's better to overeat and gain a little bit of weight than undereat and starve yourself and have performance drop. So, Stan, I started running 3 weeks ago. Oh, you brave soul. I feel like I got significantly slower on the bike. I used to comfortably hold 255 for an hour plus. Now 220 feels impossible. Is this normal? I'm going to be honest, I don't run, so I can't fully answer that question. I mean, if you're sore, I can see the soreness of it. Also, introducing another sport into it, it's probably going to take you a good 3 to 4 weeks to adapt to it and get the power back. You know, I mean, the one thing with the running is you could be hindering the recovery, and it could just, that could be another reason why the power's dropping on the bike. But again, I don't do anything else besides cycling, so I couldn't really answer that one for you. But that's just kind of my guess on why that might have gone down a little bit. How expensive are coaches? Dude, it depends. Okay, some coaches are $500 a month. Some coaches take a percent of contracts. Some coaches are $300 a month. Some are $200 a month. Some are $150 a month. It really depends. Me personally, I charge $150 a month for my lower level tier or my juniors, and then I charge $200 a month for the open, full communication. Text me, call me whenever you want. Let's change things. Let's be buddies type relationship. So it really does depend on that. And there's some other coaches too that they give you one level of service, and that's the only service they offer, and it's like $300. So, coaches are all different. So when you look around, you gotta not only compare what they offer and what they can do for you, and what their vision is for you or what their philosophy is. But you also gotta think about price point. How much do they cost? So, how many years before I should expect serious results? Increased FTP. I'm 3 years in and 47 years old. FTP is stuck at 265, 10 to 12 hours a week training. So if you're stuck, you might be doing. It's hard to say because I don't have your data in front of me and I can't look at it. But if you're stuck, it kind of tells me that you're not stressing enough. So the one thing is maybe you're not letting your fitness drop enough to recover and then doing another full-on push. Maybe you're not overreaching enough. For example, Tyler's been kind of the same threshold for a while, but then he did the Train Like a Pro challenge. Saw a massive jump in it. He did some pretty tough workouts in there and lots of volume. Saw a pretty big jump, and now he's just trying to hang on to what he has, right? So sometimes you just gotta push a little bit to break through that wall. Then you make the jump. So I wonder if you're not pushing enough. I wonder if maybe you're too tired, so you're just getting stagnant. There's so many different things in that, and unless I could look at your power in front of me and talk through things one-on-one with you, it's kind of hard to figure out what you're doing wrong. There's so many different factors that play into that. That is one thing I do consultations. I've had a couple people reach out. They didn't want coaching, but they just wanted to have me look over their files and whatnot and kind of give them an idea what I think would be best for them to move forward in. I charge just $125 for about an hour Zoom meeting call, and if you have training peaks, I ask for your training peaks ahead of time so I can walk through the data and figure it all out on my side, and then we sit down over a Zoom call and I will share with you what I see and pick your brain on what you've been doing, and you can pick my brain and ask me a bunch of questions, and then we will work through it. So your question's kind of hard to answer just because I don't have all the picture in front of me, but if you were interested in a consultation or something where we could talk through that, I charge $125 for that. And the other thing too is if people ever wanted to start coaching, maybe they just want to do a consultation and then they want to start coaching, I apply that fee towards their first month of coaching. So it's like a win-win. But anyways, I wish I could answer that question. That's a tough one. It's a bummer that you seem like you're kind of stuck. There's something there that you're probably missing that would change it, and you could probably see an increase. So how do you factor in strength, weight training, time of year, and or on what days should I do strength train on the bike? So the off season is a great time to do it. I would say do it 2 times a week. 3 times a week is pretty heavy. So get it? See what I did there? Heavy. Wait, no. Okay. Doing it 2 times a week is pretty solid. I would definitely say try to do it on the days that you do intervals. Don't do it before, but do it after your intervals. If you can do it after your intervals, I think that's going to be best. That way, you also, what you're doing on the bike, it's now and what you're doing on the weights and the bike, they're translating together. So I would do that. You can do it during the season, but I'd pull it back to 1 day a week, because when you get into the season, you're focusing more on the bike aspect of things and the building, of on the bike, the building of the fitness. So doing 1 day a week, it's not going to hurt recovery and it's not going to hurt your build process. The other reason why I say do the weights on the same day that you actually do intervals is that way, when the other days when you're not doing intervals, they're usually endurance days or the recovery days. That way, those days are actually truly recovery days, and you're not adding on more stress on days that you don't need to be adding stress. So you just get all done on one day, and then the other days you get recovery. That's how I would approach that. That's really how I would do it. During season, once a week is solid. During off season, 2 times a week is solid. That's how I would approach it. When doing sweet spot, is it key to try and stay within those ranges? Is there a negative impact of pushing higher over the sweet spot ranges? Derek. So with sweet spot, what we're trying to accomplish is we are trying to accomplish like your body just being able to handle it and shuttle the lactate, because at sweet spot you can shuttle lactate faster than you can accumulate it. And then with the training, I'd rather, if you were to I believe you're one of my athletes. If you were to push hard, if you wanted to push harder on them, I'd rather it be on the last one than on the first sets. I'd rather the first sets be in the zone. If you want to be on the high side of the zone, that's totally fine. If it's on the low side, that's totally fine too. But you want to make sure you get through all of them, because as I progress the athletes too, we will increase the time in that zone. So maybe they're doing 3x15. Eventually we'll jump into 2x20s, then we jump into like 2x30s, then we might jump into 2x40s, and if you want to push low threshold on the 2x40, well, think about it too, sweet spot is technically part of your threshold zone. So you are actually working at threshold already. But if you think you can do 2x40 at threshold, you're kind of, it's a little bit out of the zone, and there's going to be a higher physiological cost on that, or maybe your threshold is a little bit underrated. But as you get better at these two, they get more tolerable as well. So that's one thing. And again, it depends on what the coach is trying to do. And like I said, I think I'm pretty sure you're one of my athletes. So we're progressing it in a way to where you can do more time at that. Eventually, some people we might even get to doing, an hour of sweet spot. Which you're like, yeah, I'm not going to push higher than that because an hour is a long time. So that's and if I see athletes that are really nailing it too and they're starting to push higher, then the next time we do that workout, we're definitely adding more time. So that's one way to look at it. All good. Thanks experience helps too on the weekly increase time on the saddle. Yeah, for sure. Jeff, hey, I'm 61 years old and have a pretty good fitness, doing 5 to 8 hours a week before foot surgery and then a hamstring injury in 20. Oh geez, that sucks. What do you recommend for base training? I'm going to say tempo work. I've had some athletes come back from Tim at SoCal PT. They went to him for some injury stuff they were having going on. And then when they came back to me, we introduced them just into some tempo stuff to start, getting back in the rhythm, get the aerobic system going again. And then we would do a little bit of tempo, maybe a couple weeks, and then we'd move into some sweet spot. And that's kind of where we've been hitting on. And they're not real worried about getting back to racing immediately, so we're going to spend like 2 months doing sweet spot and really building that up, and then from there you continue to progress into VO2 and threshold and stuff. That's kind of how it goes. But yeah, if you're coming back from injuries and stuff and you're just getting back into it, the swing of things, tempo is a great place to start. And then once you start knocking out the tempo, move into sweet spot, maybe even do a tempo sweet spot day or something like that. And then you can, continue to progress into soul sweet spot, maybe add in some VO2 into some of the sweet spot stuff, and then you move into threshold, right? That's how I'd progress that. Jeff, okay, sweet, that's where you live. Nice. Your parents are still in Clovis. Yeah, dude, super sick. Yeah, when you come back out, hit me up. Let me know. Maybe we can get a ride going or something. I'll, maybe bring Tyler if you can cycle us out or something too. Be super cool. All right, Ruben. How can I maximize what I get out of a group ride when others are slower than me? One thing you can do is you could just sit on the front and take a lot of pulls. That's one way you can do it. If you guys have climbs where you're going to be regrouping, maybe you just hit the climbs hard and then you regroup at the top and just wait for them. Maybe you need to find another group ride that's going to push you more. That's totally acceptable as well. It all depends. So for the group rides I do, in my area, myself, Tyler, Nick, we're kind of the strongest riders in the area, and there's some other guys that are strong too. Mark's really strong, Richard's strong, we're all at different levels. And when we do group rides, I'm okay with the pace being a little bit slower too sometimes, because usually I put in a pretty big week. So when we jump in the group rides, I'm like, dude, I'm cool with just chilling and let others have time to shine and do what they're doing, right? So that's one thing. But I think if you want to look for a faster group ride too, that's not a bad idea. But the other thing too is you can maybe mentor and help the others out. Explain to them what you've been doing to get faster, and maybe they'll take note of that. Some people too like showing up to group ride and getting their teeth smashed in by people who are better than them. I used to love it. I still like that. And some of the guys now are getting strong, and we'll throw down on some of the shorter stuff, and it's a lot of fun. But like I said, sometimes I'll jump on the front, especially towards the end of a group ride. I'll jump on the front, and I'll set pace at the front and just let everyone hang on, because they might be tired or whatever, and I'm tired too, but I know I have to do it in a race, so I'll jump on the front, just let them get a free draft, and I'll do that for like an hour or something. That's one way you can handle group rides that are maybe slower than you. That, or like I said, look for a faster one if you're into that. Vincent, dude, love the content. Thanks, dude. Super appreciate it. Not sure if this has been asked here, but what's more important, meeting your required TSS or planned hours? Planned hours. I think planned hours it is. I don't worry about TSS. We kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do. If you're following, if you have a plan and you have it like very detailed and laid out, and you follow it, you check off each interval and each rest like appropriately you're supposed to do, the TSS should be within 20 point range of what you kind of had planned, right? It should either be, added or slightly below it, or it might even be above it. But all in all, I think the time is more important. So don't worry about the TSS, especially, I know some people worry about it on recovery days and stuff. Forget about it. Just go ride your bike. Just jump on your bike, ride it, have fun, take it easy. Springtime's getting ready to start here in California. Things are starting to bloom soon. Enjoy the smell of the flowers. Just take it easy, put some music in, chill vibes. I wouldn't worry too much about training stress scores. Just the time is where it's at, and that's what I do. I go out, I do my workouts, I get the time in that the coach wants, and if it's too much training stress, then he'll make an adjustment. If it's not enough, he'll make an adjustment. But in reality, we're doing it just right. You kind of have an idea too. When I coach people, I kind of have an idea of what they're going to be hitting training stress wise based off what hours I'm giving them, and that's why I'm giving them that many hours. So I would go off of hours for sure. Logan, thanks for the content. Yo, dude, sweet. Glad you like it. Stan, thanks so much for your time. Dude, no problem. That's what I'm here for, right? Hopefully, I don't know if I said that, maybe. But yeah, I love answering your guys' questions. It's cool to interact with you guys. I make these videos and you guys watch them, and that's kind of the only interaction I get. But then when I do this, I get to see you guys interact, ask questions. Some of you guys ask personal things about me, what's going on in life and whatnot. When I was doing my Zwift race the other day, fun fact, Mick goes, yo, let's do this Zwift race. Note to self, never let my friend Nick pick a Zwift race, because he picked the hardest stinking Zwift race I've ever done. It had the epic KOM with radio tower in it, and and then we're racing, and I'm like, there's some hitters here. I did not realize that. It was awful. I hung on, got fifth, but it was only because you guys were watching and were giving me so much motivation and whatnot. I was like, man, I cannot lose right now. It was ridiculous. But thank you, you guys. I love this part of hanging out with you guys. Taman or whatever 606. Okay, is it better training to do gym work 2 hours a day and then a rest day and ride, or ride then gym the next day then rest? Is it better to do gym work 2 hours a day, and then a rest day and ride, or ride the gym the next day? Yeah, I would say the second part of that question. I think it's better to ride than do the gym, and then the next day you get the rest. I think that's better. I think it's better when you do a rest day, don't do anything else in your rest day. Let it be a rest day. If you have a rest day and you're doing gym work, it is not a rest day. If you have a rest day and you're doing a hard ride, it is not a rest day. I would do gym work on the same day that you do hard rides, and even if your rest day is a super chill ride, that's good. Don't add gym work. You're just adding more stress. That's honestly, that's just what I would do. Andrew, in your recent video, you talked about fatigue-resistant threshold efforts 90 to 120 minutes into a workout. Are you still targeting 100% MFT for these efforts or something else? Yeah, so what am I... Let me see what I'm actually targeting on those. I can tell you right now. I'm targeting zone 4. Okay, that's what I'm targeting. So I can't remember what the percent of zone 4 is. Actually, zone 4, I'm not my full zone 4. It's a little bit more than that. Oh gosh, dang it. Where is my WKO? Let me open my WKO. I will open that right now. I can't remember what is. So it's like I'm shooting for 100%, but because it's a late ride fatigue resistant one, sometimes it is hard to do 100%, especially if I've been doing 7 by 4 minutes at VO2 one day, and then the next day I'm doing the fatigue resistant threshold efforts. It is hard to do those fatigued threshold efforts after doing that much VO2 the day before. Other days I was doing 5 by 5 minutes at VO2, and then the next day I was doing the fatigue resistant threshold. I'm gonna be honest, it's hard, but that is the whole point of the workout, is to be able to knock those numbers out late in a ride, late in the race. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so FTP, it's going to be a 95 to 105%. That is what I'm going off of. That's what I'm going off for that. So like I said, my target there is 343 to 379. And, it's because my FTP went up 1 watt to 361. Ew, 1 watt gain. But that's what I'm doing. So it's 95% to 105%. And if I'm honest, I'm hitting around, the first one I might be around 360. I might even be above that. Like this week I did a 20-minute power. I ended up doing 378. And then the next one I did 360. And then the next one I did 350. And then the last one I did 360. There's been other days, the week before, I was having a little struggle adapting post VO2, so we do VO2 workout, and the next day I had to do the threshold. I was having some trouble adapting to that just because it was new, and I was doing anywhere from 345 to 350. So it's still in that range of 95% to 105%, but it's definitely in the 95 to like 98% range is what I was doing it at. But again, the purpose, it's not about hitting the 100% FTP, it's about being in that zone and staying in that zone. And that's what I was doing. And, I'm getting better at it. Where the fatigue resistance is starting to build. And like I said, I was able to do my best 20-minute power. I had, I don't know, almost 17 hours into the legs for the whole week. We had done 2 VO2 workouts. We'd done 1 fatigue resistant threshold workout. This was now my second one of the week. And here I am at hour 3, and we started it, and I did my best 20-minute power ever. So it just kind of shows you, it's working, but it takes time. But yes, I am trying to target 95 to 105%. So that's where you want to be. And if you come in under 100% FTP, so for example, my FTP is apparently it says 361. If mine's 361 and I'm coming in at 350, it's still a win. You're still in that target zone. That's the big thing. Some days you just feel crappy, but you just got to get through it. I mean, that's what you got to do in a race, right? So that's what we do there. Jordan, good advice. Yeah, okay, sweet. Glad that helps. Does FTP matter when competing, Larson? Yes and no. To an extent, okay? It does matter. So what we have going on with there, if you can, FTP is definitely one of the biggest like contributors to overall performance. So the higher the FTP, the better chance you have of doing well. But it is not the only contributing factor. I've won quite a few races and I've done rather well with an FTP of 325, but I had a really good VO2. Now it's the opposite. Now I have, and it was not the opposite, but I have the FTP of 360 and my VO2 is the same or slightly better. So now it's like, whoa, what are we gonna do, right? It's gonna make a huge difference in that aspect. The one thing about FTP is the bigger FTP you have, the more room for error you can make during a race. So if you make a tactical error, we have to try to recover from it and put in a huge dig. If you have a bigger FTP, there's a bigger window for error. If you have a smaller FTP, you can still win some really high level races, but you have to be much more like surgically your tactics have to be more surgically employed. All right. What do you need? I don't worry about it. Thanks, wifey. But yeah, you need to. Oh my gosh, sorry, sidetracked. FTP is important, but you can win races on a low FTP. All right, the room for error is reduced. That's the only thing I have to say about that. Nick has kind of a low FTP because he's a sprinter, but dude, we get him there at the end of the race and he's dominating. So, how much TSS is good for a recovery week? Oh geez, dude, I don't even know. That's gonna be dependent on everyone, right? Everyone's different. It depends on what you are doing training stress wise. So like I said, I've been doing, okay, here's the 3-week block. I did 1170 this week. I did 971 the week before. I did 903 the week before. And then the week before that, I had a rest week. I did 383. That's what I did. Some people are doing 500 TSS a week, right? So you probably want to do 150 TSS a recovery week. That's just how that's going to go. So that's tough. I mean, you definitely want to go half or less than half of what you have been doing. That's going to help out. But that's kind of a hard one to answer. Everyone's different. Sean. What up, Sean? I think it's the Sean that I just started coaching. Yes, it is. What are my thoughts on the Whoop Band? Yeah, I think the Whoop Band's cool. I used the 2.0 strap when it first came out. I liked it. They changed the algorithm on it, and it was totally not getting my sleep right, and then I just stopped using it. And then they came out with the new 3.0 strap, and I know they've made some more tweaks and changes to it. Tyler uses it. He loves it. I haven't used it, the new one, recently. I've heard good things about it. When it comes to coaching, though, just because that thing says, hey, you're not recovered and you're going to have a crappy day, I don't think that's always true. I think it's good to actually go into an interval or a workout day, even when you're not feeling 100%, and try to get through it, because I think your body's going to respond to that as well. It's good for it's good for trends. It's good for looking at where you've been for the last 7 days. Day to day, it's like, like if your heart rate's super elevated one day, your pulse is compared to the day before, like 10 to 15 beats, then yeah, you're probably getting sick or something. And if it does up the second day in a row, yeah, you're getting sick, right? So you need to do something. But like having the 7-day trend of that will kind of tell you if you're starting to like trend down and be over fatigued or if you're rested. I think that aspect of it is super cool and it can be valuable for coaches. I have some athletes that use it. They really like it. I do use some of the metrics that they post in Training Peaks because you can connect it to Training Peaks and it will upload all the data from it. It's super weird. I can see how many times they were awake during the night and different stuff because it uploads all that stuff. But at the same time, I don't use that as like a sole determiner on how to structure their week. I have a pretty good idea of how to structure it and what they can handle and what they can't handle. And then we go from there. And of course, as I learn the athlete, I learn what they can handle and what they can't. And then we'll structure things that way. But I think the Whoop is cool. I think it's a good tool. Sometimes though it can sidetrack you, and it can really make you feel like, "Oh, I'm not recovering. I'm gonna stress out now because I'm not recovering," and then that just makes you not recover more. Um, it's got pros and cons, but if you're thinking about getting one, you could always get one. I think they have a 30-day money back guarantee or something, so you could always get one, see how you like it, and if you don't like it, just send it back. But they're cool. I've thought about getting one recently. I'm gonna try to reach out to them, see if they want to do sponsorship or something. But I have thought about getting one, and I just haven't pulled the trigger yet. So William, I think that's your name, William. I need longer. I need longer to recover from SST threshold 2x20, 3x20, 3x30 type workouts than from VO2 intervals. Does this tell me anything that I could use to improve my training? No, dude. That's normal. The longer the interval, the longer the rest period. So if you do a 20-minute interval, you need anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to recover. If you do a 30-minute interval, you need anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to recover. When I was doing my hour sweet spot efforts, I was taking 30 minutes in between each hour sweet spot, and then I would do another one. The shorter ones, you don't have, you can do shorter recovery because you recover quicker. I'm doing 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, VO2 5 times. That's my recovery. When I was doing 7 by 4 minutes, I was doing 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off. That was my recovery. But when I was doing 2 by 40 sweet spot, I was doing about 25 minutes off for after the 40-minute effort. So what you're doing is fine. You don't need to change anything. That's pretty much the format. That's what books will tell you. That's what podcasts will tell you. What coaches will tell you. It's usually the recovery is usually either the same or half of whatever you were doing. The shorter ones, they usually tend to do the same, so you can get a full recovery. The longer ones, they tend to do half, so you get about half the recovery time of what it took to do it. Hey Chaz, my FTP was 330, then did 8 weeks of sweet spot training, retested, and it came down to 300. Is that normal or just a bad test? I have the fitness to do 4 by 20 minutes at sweet spot. I think that's a bad test. One thing is maybe you weren't fully recovered when you jumped out of sweet spot into that. So here's an example. I tested like crap after doing sweet spot, right? WKO, we're tracking WKO. WKO is saying my threshold is 360. Okay, let's go do a 20-minute test to validate that. I did a 20-minute test and I ran 362. The week before I ran 365. I'm like, but it says I can do 360. It didn't happen until about a block of threshold and VO2 work where I did 378, which now validates that 360, right? So it was always there, but I was maybe not fully recovered enough when we wanted to test it. And that happens, and I think that's also why this is why I like WKO, because even if I have an athlete do bad on a test, WKO takes the whole power curve to figure out what your threshold is. It doesn't just take a specific number and go, oh, you did this for this, that's your threshold. Like if an athlete does a RAM test and crushes the RAM test, WKO most of the time will give them a lower threshold than what the RAM test would say, because you can kind of trick the system and you can overestimate with a RAM test. So again, I think I wouldn't back your threshold down. I would stay at 330, but I would start doing threshold efforts at 330, or in that 95 to 105% range. See how that goes, and then retest. Also mix in some VO2 work in there. See how that goes, and then retest from that. I think that's what you should do. So don't be too worried about that. It happens. Like it totally happens. Jesse, is the Sage's power meter accurate? Don't even get me started on stages. No. Yes and no. I don't know. I had a stages. I didn't really like it. I'll be honest. I've had some athletes that have stages, and they've had some issues with it. Stages, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of them. I mean, when they work, they work. When they don't, right? Just find something that's consistent, reliable power. As long as it reads the same all the time, that's all that matters. Whether it's 40 watts high or 60 watts below, as long as it reads consistent, that's what matters. But if it is like crazy off too, like if it's 50 watts high or 50 watts low all the time, then you might want to get something that actually reads what you're actually doing, because then your watts per kilo are always going to be off, and you're going to suck in Zwift, and it's going to be off. So that's my thought on that. New York here. What up, New York? Dude, what time is it in New York? 4, 5, 6, 7? 7:30? I wish spring was around the corner. It is around the corner. Well, at least where I'm at, it's around the corner. It's not that far. Like I can see it around the corner. It's like, hey, spring. Anyways, sweet spot, 88% to 94% FTP. Yes. Oh, look at my wife just dropping in. You're such an amazing coach. Hey, you're so cute. Thanks, wifey. Jeff. Zwift workouts and programs beneficial or not ideal for training purposes. Things like Build Me Up and FTP Builder things on Zwift. That is a hard one. So I think these are good. If you're just starting out, I think these programs are good. I think there's value in them. I think it's a good roadmap to get you started on structured training. You know, as you get further in your training, and I think you need to switch to more. I think you need to switch to a coach. I do think that Trainer Road can only get you so far. I think that, you know, I think Trainer Road honestly, Trainer Road I think is going to be better than doing the Zwift stuff. Zwift is still super good, but I think Trainer Road will be slightly better than that. Trainer Road will only get you so far. You know, once you start to kind of plateau and gains are getting hard, I think that's where you need to jump to a coach who's actually looking at the data and starts taking a non-cookie cutter approach and doing very specific intervals targeted towards your physiology. I think that's super important. You know, I saw Jeff Linder, NorCal Cycling. He's doing the Couch to Crit series, which I think is a super cool idea, super good. He's using Trainer Road though, right? Like when I saw that, I was like, man, I wish I could just coach that kid instead of giving him Trainer Road stuff. I mean, he's gonna get strong off Trainer Road. Don't get me wrong, because he's new to the sport. But I was like, man, I wish I could actually coach that kid, because then we could like do a solid foundation, and we could get him in really good crit shape just with, you know, personal one-on-one coaching versus the Trainer Road. But I get it too, the Trainer Road thing, he can do so many cool things with that series. With, I think he did like a live workout and whatnot, and that's what's cool. You do it with the kid and whatnot. But I think those things are good. They are important, and you can get strong off of them. But I think at some point you got to make the switch, and you got to go a little bit more specific, more geared towards your physiology, because, you know, one size doesn't fit all, right? And that's what I did. Like I had to move. I never did training plans like that. I went straight into coaching, but I did have some coaches early on that were kind of cookie cutter. But now the coaching I have, and the coaching that I do too, it's not cookie cutter. Everything is built off of them. Like WKO gives me specific targets for specific energy systems I want to target in that person, and it's all based off their power curve and different things. So I would do a coaching option if you could, but the Zwift stuff is good. And the Trainer Road, though, I think is probably going to be better than the Zwift workouts, if you just want my honest opinion. Coach Newport, dude, Coach, what up? Coach is in the house. I coach mostly elite level duathletes and runners. Nice. Do I coach any multi-sport athletes? If not, do any of your cyclists run? So I do have like 2 or 3 athletes that are training for like Ironmans, or they do triathlon or stuff like that. I personally do not coach that side of the things. I coach just their cycling. I think they have the running and the swimming stuff figured out on their own. I don't even think some of them might even have a coach for that. But I coach just cycling. I do have one athlete. She likes to run and do marathons. So she'll randomly do 1 or 2 runs a week, and I'll tell her, hey, do them on more of the endurance days versus doing them on the hard workout days. That way you can get the workout stuff done. And she does that. You know, that's what she does. I got other people that say, hey, I run and swim on these days, can we do biking on these days, and I will build the program that we do the biking on those days. So no, I don't coach. I coach a couple people. And then, so I do tell some of my athletes too, if they're taking time off and they can't be around on the bike, I would tell them, go run. If you want to go run, go run. I'll tell them to do that. But I personally, I don't run myself. I know like Nielsen Powell's, he runs, like some people do run to stay kind of in shape. That's interesting. I'd love to like connect with you and just talk about how you deal with that, and see what your thoughts are. But Luis, how many hours can someone ride without eating? What percentage should they ride? Dude, that was a tough one to answer. It depends on what you ate for breakfast. Like, okay, Tyler's an extreme example of being cyclist, but he fasts quite a bit. He can go a very long while without eating. I wouldn't fully recommend that. I mean, if you're not careful about it, you'll start to break down protein, and next thing you know, you're kind of cannibalizing your muscles too. And the way you know that's happening is your sweat will have kind of this like ammonia smell to it. And if you smell that, it means your body's starting to break down muscle to use for fuel, which is not good. And that is one of the downsides to not eating properly on a ride. So I would just forgo the fasting stuff and make sure to eat on rides. If you were to fast on a ride, I'd only fast for the first hour and then eat as normal after that. I wouldn't go 4 or 5 hours without doing it. Ryan, what up, Ryan? One of my athletes. How do you plan your food during a 4 or 5 hour ride? Sawyer and I finished our killer ride and I ate all right. Felt really good throughout the whole ride. Yeah, so it's I think basically what I do is I go, okay, how many hours am I riding today? If I'm riding 5 hours, I bring enough food for 6. Okay, so it depends what you get to. I don't do a lot of gels on the longer Saturday rides because we have a lot of chill time to actually eat real food. So I'll bring the waffles and the chomps. That's what I'll do. So like the other day when we did our 6 hour ride, I took, what did I take? I think I took either 3 or 4 waffles, and then I think I took 4 chomps, 4 packages of chomps. But I ate 2 packages of chomps, and I ate 3 waffles maybe. I was kind of doing a waffle an hour plus all those chomps, but then I also had drink mix too, which is also calories in, and then we had one stop where I got a candy bar. I mean, that's what I did. So I planned for kind of like, okay, what would I eat in 1 hour? I need this for 1 hour, and if I'm gonna do 4 hours, I need to replicate that. So I bring that much food for 4 to 5 hours. And then I'm excited to see what you and Sawyer did today. I coached Sawyer too. They went out for a pretty big ride today. Hope that was super good. I'll check that file out soon. Gavin, enjoying the informative content, being a new cyclist. Thanks, keep it going. Sick, dude. I will do my best to keep it going. Sometimes I run out of ideas and I'm sitting here and I'm just like, what should the next video be? Should I do another workout video? Should I do a funny video? What should I do? Sometimes it's hard coming up with that stuff, but I'm going to keep doing my best. But I appreciate the support, dude. Leo, SIS Betafuel, what do you think? Dude, I hear really good things about it. I used to use it all the time. I think it's good. I like it. I've been at the point where I've started, I enjoy eating stuff, but yeah, dude, Betafuel is solid. If you like Betafuel, use Betafuel. Like SIS Betafuel, it's really good. I know there's a couple of guys I ride with, they love it. Tyler loves it. I've used it and had good results with it. Use Betafuel. Larson, does your FTP have to be high to compete Cat 1? Yes and no. See, that's a tough one. Gosh, man, it's all relevant. You could have the lowest FTP in the field, but if you race really smart, you can win the stinking race, right? It's not about who gets to the line first. It's about who well, I mean, it is. But if you can get to the line the freshest, you're probably going to win the race. So, let's see, yes and no to that one. But, gosh, yeah, I don't even know. I mean, when I started Cat 1, I think I was around 350. Or when I started Cat 1 too, I was around 315 watts threshold. When you're getting into the big races, yeah, having a big threshold definitely helps to win those races. It gets tough, especially if there's climbs and stuff like that. A big VO2 can actually get you through some of those shorter climbs in those big races. But yeah, you're gonna need something at least in the high 4, low 5 range to really be competitive. If you're in the high 4s for a threshold, you can be competitive in the 1-2 races as long as you race smart. The higher your threshold, the more room for error you have. So, appreciate the advice. Been cycling for 7 months, FCP of 305. Hopefully, I improve. Dude, sick. That's a solid number for 7 months. Like, keep at it, keep grinding through it. For your triathletes, how do you balance intensity days? Example, if you do 2 VO2 bike days, probably can't do 2 VO2 running and swim days that week. Yeah, so it's really dependent on what they do with their running and with their swimming. Like I said, I don't do running personally, so I don't know all the physiology stuff behind running. I'm sure it's not too far off from cycling, but I don't really work out. I don't give them workouts either. They just tell me what days they're gonna run, and I tell them, okay, what days can we do, this and that, and then I'll do that. That's how it works. Yeah, and so Coach Newport just jumped in and said, like, it's easier to do VO2 max on the bike versus running. I mean, again, like, I haven't ran, and he deals with that, so, I mean, that's some good input. If you got input on that, go ahead and answer it when that question. But yeah, the triathletes, people I have, I'll ask them to give me, what their schedule is, and then I'll build out that. And if they're in triathletes, mostly what I'm doing is we're going to be doing a lot of threshold, we're going to be doing a lot of sweet spot, because that's what they're going to be needing for the type of events they're doing, right? We'll do some VO2 max because you do have to raise the ceiling on VO2 max so you can continue to raise threshold and whatnot, but we're not going to be like heavy on. I'm not giving them anaerobic work and stuff like that because they're not doing those type of efforts. They're going to be doing a lot of sweet spot. The goal is to raise the threshold high enough to where, if it was an hour long TT or whatever, they can sit sweet spot for an hour and do really solid, and still run really well and do everything. So that's kind of the direction we're going with that. Coach Newport, there aren't many good cycling coaches who actually work with multi-sport athletes in the UK, so cycling coaches are a limited resource. Yeah, no, I get that, and like I said, I don't know anything about the triathlon side of things, the swimming and the running. So if they come to me, I make it clear. I'm like, hey, I'm not looking to prescribe that stuff because I don't fully understand how to progress that stuff. Other than, hey, go run a 13K today. Like, I don't know what to do, but I will sit down and give them bike specific workouts to help on the biking side of things, especially since they're doing more of the steady state stuff. So, it's far easier to call it. Yeah, no, it is easier. Okay. Hello from Sunny Kugaku. I enjoy your informative videos a lot. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, dude. Anytime. Kevin, hi Chaz. I don't have a power meter. What do I train or plan training sessions without a power meter? Thanks. Dude, that's hard. If you have heart rate, you can get by with that. It's not the most accurate thing in the world because, okay, if it's really hot out, your heart rate's going to be really high. If you're dehydrated, your heart rate's going to be really high. If you're super tired, your heart rate's going to be really low. If it's cold out, your heart rate can be really low. But overall, you can train with heart rate. You can train by perceived exertion, but I'm going to be honest, it is hard. When you do VO2 efforts, you're going to have to go too hard during VO2 efforts, and it's just, invest in the power meter. It's worth it. If you want to make gains and you want to be serious, invest in the power meter. You can train without it. It's just a little bit more complicated. I don't really have anyone that I train that doesn't have power. Like, I've had some people that started without power and they just had heart rate, and we went that route, and then once they got power, then we jumped into it. And I tell them too, I was like, hey, yeah, I can train you off a heart rate. It's not going to be the best though, you know, but I would recommend investing in that power meter as soon as you can. So I think all my athletes are actually on power now, and that's what we do. So invest in it. It's a good investment. Power meters these days too are relatively inexpensive. You're looking at $300 to $600 for a solid power meter. So I would do that. Sweet dude, me and Coach Newport on the same page. So that shows you I'm not stupid, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, that's cool. Yeah, we'll have to chat someday and talk about that stuff. If a race starts at 7 a.m., do you also get up 3 hours before that to eat? If a race starts at 7, gosh, our races don't. Our races start at 8 a.m. and I'll get at 5:30 or 5:30 or 6, depending on how far it is from where I'm staying. And I'll usually eat an hour before, hour and a half before, and that's plenty of time. Even when I work out now, I only eat. See, we're at 10:30. I'll eat by 9. I'll eat at 9:15. You know, an hour and a half before. But I eat the same stuff all the time, and I digest it really well, and I just jump straight into it. That's how I handle that. Garmin, Wahoo, or other heart rate monitor. We prefer Wahoo, but always keen to hear what you guys use over there. I use a Wahoo computer, so I've been using the Wahoo strap. I know some people use the Garmin strap. Wahoo's cool. I like Wahoo for sure. I don't know. I dig them. Wahoo too. I like the computer because the live segments for Strava are super sick. Like, they work really well. I used to do all my workouts through workout mode on there, but my new coach, they're very complex and we don't build them out anymore. So they're all just like all from memory of what he wrote. But I still build them all for my athletes. And if you have a Wahoo, it's so easy to take that and just upload it to your computer, and now you get to go out and ride and just have fun and follow your computer. But yeah, we use the heart rate strap, the Wahoo heart rate strap. That's what I use. I use a Wahoo kicker trainer. I actually got the new 2020 like a couple weeks ago. Super pumped on that. Hook it up to the Zwift over there. Some people don't even use heart rate. It's interesting. Nick doesn't use heart rate when we train. I wish he would, because he wants to get me coaching, and I think if he used heart rate, he would understand himself a little bit better, and then he'd be able to help other people as well. But thank you so much for answering. Yeah, dude, no problem, Kevin. And Coach Newport, thanks, Chaz. Good job again today. Yeah, dude, super fun. I'm going to be honest. It's almost 5 o'clock. We've been doing this for almost 2 hours. I think it's time to call it. I'm going to answer just these last two, Purple Cow and Mr. Two-Law. I'm going to answer your 2 questions, and then we're done for the night. Because I'm going to go get some dinner, and I've been talking all day in church and now and singing all day too, so my voice is like, but I'm going to go grab dinner, hang out with my wife a little bit. I have an athlete that's starting up this week that I have to call, and I have to get on board with them. And then I'm working on a video idea. I'm going to talk about strength training in a video and what kind of strength training you can do to build peak power. So I'm calling Art O'Connor, which is a strength coach. He's a strength coach for Keegan Swanson, the pro mountain biker here in the U.S. I've worked with Art O'Connor in the past on weights and stuff. I'm going to call him later tonight, and we're going to discuss what kind of program we could do, what he could do, and then I'm going to make a video with him too. Hopefully help, share his coaching company when it comes to weight training, which he does phenomenal with cyclists. And then we're going to go from there. But I'm going to answer these last 2 questions, and we'll call it a night. If all my local crits are for sprinters, and I'm a pretty light climber, should I still be sitting in for the group for the sprint, or keep trying to establish a solo break because it always gets brought back? You got to pick and choose, man. I think the biggest thing is you're going to want to go in the second half of the race. If you guys... Sorry, there's motorcycles going by. Just a second. If you guys can, if you can make the first part of that race really hard and try to drop some of the sprinters, then in the second half of the race, everyone's fresh in the first half. In the second half, as long as you sat down and were patient, in the second half you might be able to make something stick. That's what I do. I do my best to break the sprinters, and I try to get away. So that's one way to look at it. And I mean, if you're a light climber, you're probably not going to win a lot of races, and it's probably going to do you no good sitting in. So I would just sit in as long as you can, and in the second half, try to make something happen. That's really going to be the only bet. That, or get on a good team where you guys can just counterattack the crud out of that race the whole time, and hopefully something gets away. What do you eat? Okay, last question. What do you eat before a hard VO2 training? 1.5 hours enough to digest oatmeal and bananas. So I'm gonna be honest. I eat my blueberry walnut pancakes every morning with a full serving of maple syrup. Maple syrup serving is like, I don't know, 4th cup of syrup. I know you're like, oh, it's a lot of syrup. I love syrup, so don't judge. But I'll do that. And what my pancakes are made up of? They're homemade. Basically, in a blender, I will add oats, I will add egg whites, and I will add cottage cheese, and I will blend it all up, and I'll add some baking powder in there so it rises when you cook it. Then I will throw it on the griddle. I'll put in chopped walnuts, and I'll put in blueberries. Those are my pancakes. Top that with maple syrup. I'll eat that anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half before my ride. But then the VO2 work, we're usually doing a 30 to actually doing like a 40 to an hour warm up before we start VO2. So because of that, technically I get, if I'm eating that an hour and a half for my ride, and then we plus the warm up, I'm looking at an hour and a half to 2 hours of digestion before you even start. That's how I handle it. Oatmeal's solid. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to digest. That's why I blend it all up just to make it a little easier. Plus, I love those pancakes. Bananas are good though. Bananas give you good energy for a good 90 minutes worth of work. So bananas are solid too. Anyways, hey, this was super fun. As always, it's awesome to get to interact with you guys. I know still I'm on this side talking to a camera, and you're watching me talk, and all you can do is type up and chat. But I did have fun tonight. This is always fun to hear your questions. And then next time we do this, I set this up for once a month. I think doing it on a Sunday around the 15th, like the middle of the month, once a month is going to be really good. So I already have the next one planned for February. It's going to be right around Valentine's Day or whenever that is. Actually, it might even be Valentine's Day, so I might have to change it. But that is my plan for this. Come ready with questions as always. Feel free to, if you guys got any personal questions for me, what I've done, where I've been, what my journey has been in cycling, whatnot. Those questions are cool too. They don't all just have to be about training and cycling and nutrition. They can be about personal stuff too. Cool with that, because I like sharing who I am with you guys, so you understand. I'm just a normal guy, just working super hard. I'm semi-gifted, but I have to work hard to achieve the fitness level that I'm at. And my wife could attest to that. She'd be like, oh my gosh, you're going out for 6 hours today? Why? And I'm like, well, that's what the coach said. I want to win nationals. I got to do this. So there's lots of hard work going in. And you guys honestly keep me motivated, and it's fun to see you guys cheering me on Strava and Instagram and different stuff like that. It's also very humbling to see the support, so I appreciate that. But this was super fun. Glad we got to do this. Keep training and riding hard. I got more videos coming out. Super excited on that. Got a training day vlog coming out soon. Like I said, I'm working on that strength training one for peak power. Working on peak power stuff sprint wise. I'm going to talk to Art O'Connor tonight about that. Super excited. And I think that's everything. So, hey, again, super appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. Hope you all have a good night. Hope you guys have a good week. I hope 2021 has been a decent start for you. Hopefully COVID is not affecting you guys too much. Gosh, that's been a real downer and a bummer lately. But keep training and riding hard, guys. And I'll see you guys in the next live stream. And as always, if you haven't and you enjoyed this time, please subscribe. Support is huge. Also, give those videos a thumbs up. That always helps continue to throw the content out there so others can see it. Oh, P.S. I wish when people would give you a thumbs down on their video that it would tell you who they were. I always get 1 to 3 people. It's always 1 to 3 people are just video sucked. I want to know why it sucked, who you are, where you live. I'm just kidding. But I would like to know is it just haters? Just boom, he posts another video, don't like that guy, boom, dislike. Or like, do they generally just not like it? And if they didn't, like, that's cool. Let me know. I like to know that. You're not gonna hurt my feelings because I'm gonna keep making the videos. So, but I remember Tyler got all upset about that one time. He was just like, okay, who's the jerk that gives me there's always some jerk that gives me thumbs down every single video. It's just, and some of them are instant. Like, you post the video and within like 5-10 minutes of posting it, just sucks. And I'm like, did you even watch the video? Hater. Anyways, cool. I'm out skis. I'm gonna go get dinner with my wife and call an athlete and talk to Art O'Connor tonight. So, see you guys later. Thank you for watching.